It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP As We See It, a weekly syndicated 1-hour show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football, and other sports. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of AP As We See It. We're reporting live here from Los Angeles. We were at the Super Bowl in San Francisco last week, and this week we headed south a little bit to Los Angeles. That's the other LA, we call it. But we'd like to direct our audience to our social media platform. Our video broadcast is on our YouTube channel at AP As We See It. It's our recorded audio is on the Spotify at AP As We See It. And also we're on the 20 to 25 stations in the Southeast. It airs on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So check your local listings. We have our links on Facebook at AP As We See It. And also my personal at AP Stedham. X accounts as well, the same too, and also our Instagram as well. So we'd like to thank you for listening. And as I said, you can leave some comments at any time. We welcome the comments, the observations, the suggestions, the thoughts. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Greer's Markets, 100 plus years in business, serving 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi and beyond, serving the Gulf Coast. They have Lucy's Famous Recipes, where you can find online, and she has her book where you can purchase at their locations or online as well. Remember, they have the family, friends in football, basketball, and all the sports. That's a winning tradition at Greer's. You can score big savings on the meats, the produce, and all the other items that you will serve to your family and friends, and they will certainly enjoy. They have the coloring contest for the children. They have the specials online weekly for all the holidays, the birthdays, the anniversaries. Mardi Gras is happening right now, so I know that a lot of people love to celebrate the Mardi Gras, so check out the weekly online ads and have those things delivered to you. If you can't make it down to one of the locations, groceries to go, delivers to your home, your office, the venue of your choice. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. We'd like to tell you about our show this week. We're going to be discussing the college basketball, men's and women's in the SEC, the college football playoffs, the non-conference games with the college football teams in the SEC. They're so important. We call them the pendulum games. It can swing the momentum for the SEC if they win enough of those as well, and they influence the college football playoff selection committee. We're going to be going over some divisions within the SEC between the commissioner's office and some of the coaches, particularly University of Alabama basketball coach Nate Oates, and then Kirby Smart made mention that all the coaches are concerned about the 9-game schedule. So we're going to be offering our observation and comments and thoughts about those subject matters as well. So that's kind of a big rift between the commissioner's office and Alabama basketball and the head football coaches in the SEC with a 9-game schedule. There's some pros and the cons that we're going to make mention. But anyhow, let's get to our first subject. It's going to be the college basketball. We're looking at the Associated Press, the rankings as we tape the show. Florida is at number 14, 17-6. 8-2 in the conference. Vanderbilt, number 19, 20-4, 7-4 in the conference. Arkansas, 18-6, 8-3 in the conference. Number 21. Number 25 is Kentucky, 17-7. They're 8-3 in the conference. We have some SEC teams receiving votes. Alabama received 72, Tennessee 26, Georgia 6, Auburn 2, Alabama 16-7, 6-4 in the conference. Matching that same record in the conference and overall is Tennessee 16-7, 6-4, Georgia 17-6, 5-5. Auburn 14-10, 5-6. So we have 4 teams in the top 25, the AP poll right now, men's basketball. Last year, they had the record-setting season. 14 teams were invited to the NCAA tournament. That best the mark of 11 from the Big East in 2011. And right now, it looks like we're going to discuss it later, but 10 teams or so right now projected from the men's side. But there's no outstanding team, as you can tell, because the highest rated team in the Associated Press is number 14, Florida. So maybe they can have somebody can have some hot games, win some close games, win 2 games for 2 weekends in a row. That will get you to the Final Four in Indianapolis. And I recommend it highly to anybody who's considering attending a Final Four. You'll have a lot of fun. The best day is Saturday, even though the championship is Saturday. But Saturday, there's all the 4 teams with their fans and alumni. They're so excited and they have high hopes to be winning a championship. So, but that Saturday, the Final Four, that's one of the great days in sports in America. So I highly recommend if you have a chance to head north to Indianapolis. And it's not too far from SEC territory, most of the teams, a good portion anyway. But now we're going to move on to the women's. The women's 9 teams are in the Associated Press top 25. You have South Carolina 24-2, 10-1 in the conference. They have a loss to Texas, but that's not counted in the conference mark because that was a tournament in Las Vegas, which I'll cover that game. Matter of fact, it was a 2-point game, excellent ball game. They have the 1 loss to Oklahoma. Then you have number 4, Texas. We mentioned 23-2, 8-2 in the conference. Vanderbilt, number 5, 23-2, 9-2 in the conference. LSU, number 6 at 22-3, 8-3 in the conference. Oklahoma, 17-6, 5-5 in the conference. Ole Miss, 14, 19-5 in the conference. 19-5 overall, 6-3 in the conference. Kentucky, number 18, 18-7, 5-6 in the conference. Tennessee, 15-6, 7-2 in the conference. Alabama's 23rd in the Associated Press poll, 20-5, 6-5 within the conference. Georgia is a team who received 23 votes. They're 19-5, 5-5 in the conference. So that's 9 teams in the Associated Press top 25 AP poll. Right now, about 10 teams are projected for the NCAA. And if we were considering the success for the women, looking at these rankings, you'd probably like to get 2 into the Final Four to consider it an outstanding season because just in the top 10 alone, you have Oklahoma, LSU, Vanderbilt, Texas, South Carolina. So if you're figuring probably 2 teams from the conference, if they play well enough and escape some tight ball games, hot shooting teams, maybe they're going to land 2 teams in the Final Four like the men did last year. The men had Auburn and the eventual champion Florida. So, but the SEC in basketball is going to be well represented. They're respected around the country. The coaching is very good on the men's side and the women's side. They have top level of talent, and their programs they're dedicated to making sure that their men's and women's basketball teams are highly competitive, seeking championships within the conference, seeking high ratings in the polls, and trying to earn a berth in the NCAA tournament and advance their team to the Final Four and regional 8s and Sweet 16. So, but the SEC men's and women's basketball programs are in good stead in the year 25-26. So, and the women's championship, if you've never been there, I recommend it as well. I mean, pick your sport, the men's basketball, the women's basketball. I know you're going to enjoy yourself. And the women, they came up with the idea a few years ago. There's 2 sites for the first and second round and all the rounds leading up. It's the later rounds leading up to the Final Four. They have 2 sites instead of all over the country and the 4 regional sites. They have just the 2 sites for those. I think it's 16 teams head to those 2 sites. So I think that's a good idea for the women to have it all congregated in just 2 cities, and it's worked out very well for them. And I think it's added something to the game. But, basketball in the Southeast has come a long way since I started watching It really was a break in the action for football many years ago. But the last several decades and beyond, they've paid attention. They've devoted more resources, hired better coaches, recruited players from all over the country. With this NIL business, you know that they can attract talent because there's money. There's with the Southeastern Conference, they receive from the football and the basketball, and the women's have always been very, very good. I think years ago, the story that I heard was they didn't want any Title IX issues to arise, so they tried to take a full advantage of their women's programs and provide the scholarships and resources so there would not be any issues affecting the main sport of football, which is the biggest revenue source for any school in the Southeastern Conference and across America usually. So, but women's basketball has always been highlighted in the SEC for many decades. Heck, it's probably been 40, 50 years, close to it, that it's been an outstanding sport in the Southeast. So, but anyway, that's a little bit of a preview of what's happening in college basketball in the Southeastern Conference. And we're going to get back to our subjects, as I mentioned, in the next segment. So we'll be back after these messages with another segment of AP as we see it.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it for another segment of our show. And we want to mention our sponsor, Greer's Markets, over 100 years in business, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the Gulf Coast and beyond. They have Lucy's Famous Recipes, which you can look at online, which is a book you can purchase as well. Family, friends, and football and basketball and other sports. That's a winning tradition at Greer's. You can score big savings with the fresh meats, the produce, and more for your game day spreads. They have the Groceries to Go. If you can't make it to one of those 29 locations, hit on Groceries to Go. They'll deliver to your home, your office, your venue of choice. Remember, they have the coloring contest for the children. And for all the holidays, the anniversaries, the birthdays, the special occasions, you have Mardi Gras. Check out things online, the weekly specials, and Greer's has everything that you would need for all those special occasions. Check the weekly ads, as I said, and remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. So let's get back to the show. We were discussing the college basketball with regards to the SEC, the men's teams and the women's teams. They're poised to have both of them maybe have 10 teams earn a berth in the NCAA tournament. We don't know yet because you have to finish out the season strong, and all kind of quirky things happen with those league championships that possibly can knock out somebody with a berth if you're on the cusp. You're on that proverbial bubble. But I think that the SEC, they're in good standing right now. So I look forward to them having probably 10 on the men and 10 on the women. And like I say, right now, the women's are probably more in a position to be in the Final Four, probably a couple of teams on the women's side. The men's side will probably be a surprise at this point. Last year, we were expecting maybe two because they had the record-setting 14 and they had strong teams on the men's side. But the men this year, like I said, they're the highest-ranked team in the AP poll at this juncture. We're taping today. 14th is Florida, the champion, the reigning champion from last year. But hey, we think that maybe an SEC team can get hot, win a close game, what you need to do. And like I tell everybody all the time, you're trying to win 2 games, 3 straight weekends, and you'll be the champion. If you can view the basketball tournament with that perspective, win 2 games for 3 straight weekends, you're the champion, the NCAA champion. So I think most coaches, I believe that's how I approach it. Let's win 2 games this weekend and see if we can advance. So, but anyhow, we're now going to pursue this Charles Bediako story. For those who don't know, University of Alabama, former player, 7-footer. He was at Alabama a few years back, but he signed an NBA contract. He played 3 seasons in the G League. Nate Oates, the head coach, Greg Byrne, the athletic director, they chose to see if they can reclaim him and he can be reinstated as a player. He was able to play 5 games. Alabama was 3-2 in those games. Let's go over the sequence if we can. On the 21st of January, a Tuscaloosa judge, he issued a temporary restraining order so that Charles Bediako could compete. So from the 24th of January to the 7th of February, he competed in 5 games. Alabama's record was 3-2 in those games. You look on the 9th of February, a different judge denied his request for a preliminary injunction to compete for the University of Alabama. So essentially his time was ended as a college player. Now, Alabama will keep him on scholarship and he'll be paid the NIL, but he's not going to be able to play. But the other part of this scenario was Greg Sankey and the SEC, the commissioner, on the 5th of February, he filed an affidavit, which is a legal declaration in support of a motion against Charles Bediako. So he backed the NCAA to deny eligibility, and that was done in a Tuscaloosa court. So the NCAA and the commissioner of the SEC, they won. But the strange part of this equation is University of Alabama is a member school in the Southeastern Conference. Now, there had to be some discussion along the way with the commissioner of the SEC about reinstating a player that had signed an NBA contract. And it was strange to me that Alabama proceeded and they had that temporary restraining order from the judge in Tuscaloosa. And so Charles Bediako was on the basketball team for 5 games. But it wasn't until the 5th of February that the SEC commissioner filed that affidavit against Charles Bediako from the University of Alabama and the University of Alabama coaching staff and athletic department against them reinstating a player that had signed a contract with the NBA. So that's quite a rift, because you would think I'm not proceeding against the commissioner if I'm the University of Alabama. I just don't see how you go against the conference commissioner, because he's speaking for the entire membership, and the University of Alabama went against him. But that actually happened, and so I think that was unique that you would go against a commissioner, a member institution, and this is something that affected not only the University of Alabama but schools around the country. So, but Alabama chose to make that decision, and they acted independently of the commissioner and the Southeastern Conference, and they ended up losing. But that's a chapter that we'll look back on and we'll maybe scratch our head about. I don't know. But anyhow, that's not the first time that a head coach has really been against the commissioner. I'm just referencing Kirby Smart. He was really quite adamant at the league championship game that all of the head coaches had concern about playing 9 games. And he mentioned player health, and also it hurts the longevity of the players if they're injured. He also said that one of the reasons that they're playing the 9 games is because of the TV revenue, money. And as Don Omar, the famous producer and executive from NBC, said, all the answers to your question are money. And so the SEC made that determination and said they would like to play 9 games, and that's what's going to happen. It's going to be improve the strength of schedule component, playing 9 SEC games. So that's what's going to happen this coming season on the football side in the SEC. But I just thought it was unique that here's another major rift between a member institution and the commissioner's office. The commissioner's office was totally against reinstating a player that signed a contract with the NBA. And I think all the head coaches in the football side are against the 9 games because they think it might hurt their chances of making the college football playoff. And I guess they have no trust in the selection committee. If you play a tight ball game within your conference against a very good opponent, I think that's going to be a positive for you. But when we saw Ole Miss lose to Kentucky, who ended up with winning 1 game within the conference, that was their only Power 4 win, you're not going to be able to complain. You can't have horrible losses. A good loss is a team probably above 500, ranked, let's say. But if you have losses against teams on the bottom in the standings for your league, the SEC particularly, I don't think you have a right to voice your displeasure. I think you have to win those ball games against all those teams that are 500 or above. The ones that are ranked, you're trying to win all those, or at least 500 against those top-ranked teams. So I don't think these head football coaches, you're going to say we play in the SEC, and then we're going to lose to a team like Kentucky who had the 1 win. It was at Ole Miss. You were playing at home, and you lost the game. So that's what I would say about the 9-game schedule. Have confidence and faith in the selection committee. Win those games above versus the teams above 500 and they're ranked as many as you can. And I think the committee will take that into consideration, and you should be considered by the committee in the discussions, and you'll have a really good chance to be in the 12-team college football playoff. That's what I feel about adding that 9th game. But adding the 9th game, and Kirby Smart mentioned, I'm just going to digress for a moment. He mentioned these player health. And the NCAA, the SEC, they mention the player health, but like I said, the actions. And if we've heard this before, your actions are so loud I can't hear a word you're saying. So they mentioned player health, but they voted, and they're going to have 9 games, another game within the conference, which I think jeopardizes people's health. But you're going to play another game against somebody else, so there's always that chance. But anytime you not looking out for the player's health, but you're mentioning that as we're concerned, but you act otherwise. So, like I said, actions are so loud I can't hear a word you're saying. So we're going to come back in a little while. I'll continue our discussion of some issues with college football and the college football playoff, which we know that was decided recently to maintain that 12-team playoff. So we're going to come back after these messages with another segment of AP As We See.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP As We See It for another segment 3. And we just want to make mention of our sponsor, Greer's Groceries, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the Gulf Coast and beyond for over 100 years. They have Lucy's Famous Recipes, and also she has a book you can purchase online as well, The Family, Friends, and Football and Basketball and all the other sports. That's a winning tradition at Greer's. You can score big savings with the fresh meats, the produce, and more for your game day spreads. Groceries to Go, they can have things delivered. If you can't make it to one of the 29 locations, click on Groceries to Go to deliver to your home, office, venue of your choice. You have the coloring contest for the children, all the special occasions. And remember, Mardi Gras right now, so you can take care of all those things that you need for your family and friends for the Mardi Gras season, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays. Any special occasion, Greer's is there for you to take care of all your needs. They have so many things that every time I go in there, I find something different that I didn't realize was there. So, like I said, coloring contest for the children. Check the online weekly ads and the specials for all the various seasons and holidays. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. So let's get back. We were discussing the college football playoff. One thing that baffles me, they made the decision to maintain the 12-team college football playoff moving forward. The Big Ten and the SEC, the two commissioners, are in charge of that managing that decision, and the other 8 conferences, and I think it's it's 10 conferences, I believe, in Notre Dame as an independent. They have a say. So you have those 2 conferences, and then the other conferences have acquiesced and given that power to the Big Ten and the SEC. And it's amazing that you have 2 men, and there can't be a compromise. The SEC, they favor that 16-team, 5-11 model. They want to have the 5 best conferences and then 11 at large. The Big Ten wants the 24 teams and the automatic qualifiers. Maybe it's 4 for the Big Ten, SEC, and 2 for the Big 12 and the ACC, and a lot of at larges because. But the Big Ten, I think their compromise was to have the 16 teams for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and then move to 24. But they can't come to an agreement. So this puzzles me because people are expecting the NIL, the transfer portal, the eligibility. They're looking to Washington. Now, there's 100 senators and 435 congressional members. That's 535 people. Do you really think they're going to come to an agreement on all these other issues? And you see 2 people involved with the Big Ten and the SEC, and they can't come to an agreement for a playoff. 2 people versus 535, yet everybody keeps pointing towards Washington to come up with some type of plan to corral, rein in the college football, college athletics world, as far as the name, image, and likeness, the transfer portal, the eligibility rules, the ability to play professional sports and then re-enter college athletics, that model that's very unique specifically to the United States. But I just can't, for the life of me, understand why people think that Congress, the 100 senators to 435 House representatives, are going to come up with all these plans to put the parameters on the name, image, and likeness, the transfer portal, the eligibility, when you have 2 commissioners who have all the power, can't even compromise on the number of teams that should enter the college football playoff each year. I don't think it's real. I think it's fantasy. And I'll say it's fantasy until proven otherwise. It's not reality. Maybe somewhere down the line, I don't know. There's so much pressure that the 2 commissioners will come up with a compromise, but I don't see it happening. And I'm fine with 12 teams. There's always going to be somebody left out, and you have to win your games or you be competitive in all of them. Like I said, you could have a good loss against a team that's 500 or above, or it's a ranked team when you're in your conference. So I just believe that the college football world, if they live with 12 for 5 years, I'm fine. I don't need 16 or 24. I always told people, if you're going to have this playoff system, do you want it to be college basketball where there's teams, and let's say in football, you have 4 losses and you're competing for a title? The beauty of college football always to me was every weekend's a playoff game. Every weekend. It's high pressure, and you're trying to win a ball game on the road, at home, neutral site. But I just believe college football was such a great game, and there was high stakes every weekend. I love it. I love it that way. But like we know in college basketball, there's teams that had 7, 8, 9, 10 losses, maybe have won a title, NCAA title. If that's what you want, I said it'll bleed into college basketball. If you want all these teams, 24 teams in college football in the playoffs, you have that one upset. You can knock out a team that had 1 loss, and they can be upset, and then they're knocked out, and you won't see them compete for the title. I think all season long they played very well, had 1 loss, and they were upset by a team with maybe 4 losses. And the team that progressed with the 4 losses, they get beat the next week because they weren't that good to begin with, but they happened to play very well. and upset a one-loss team, which could happen. We know that happens in college football. We've seen FCS level teams upset teams that were ranked in college football. So, but I just think that college football, two people can't compromise. I'll live with 12. And right now, to me, moving forward, it's a fantasy world. If you believe that Congress is going to come up with a plan with the transfer portal, the NIL, the eligibility, and you're going to have two commissioners compromise. It just seems that's not on their agenda. They've had a whole year and more to come up with a plan, and that's not happened. So, but anyway, the other thing about the 9 games with the SEC, the logo that they have is the SEC just means more. And my retort would be, prove it. If you want to, if you're afraid of playing 9 league games and don't think you can make the playoffs, prove it on the field. You have a chance. You have command. You're in total command of your fortunes, your outcomes. Prove it. Prove it to everybody else that the SEC is the best. And you just have to go through that gauntlet. These other leagues, they've shown to be competitive. We know that the SEC that had to be the worst bowl season of all time. 4 wins, 2 of them were against each other because Alabama beat Oklahoma in the playoffs on the road, and Ole Miss beat Georgia in the playoffs. Texas beat Michigan, and Ole Miss beat Tulane. That's the 4 playoff bowl victories. That had to be the worst season for the SEC League, who says it just means more. Well, that's nice to have the slogan, but you have to prove it on the field. So I would say have faith in your program and play the 9 games. The decision's already been made by the commissioner, even though the head coaches, according to Kirby Smart, they have some concern. They're probably all against it, I would say, because they don't trust the playoff selection committee, and they feel that the strength of schedule component is not going to be taken into account. But that's what the SEC is betting on moving forward with their prior history of being a strong league, one of the strongest leagues in the country. So, I think that's the philosophy. That is the perspective that the SEC brings to that decision of playing 9 games. And it's up to the head coaches and their programs to prove the commissioner and the league correct and show the rest of the country that we're not just a slogan. It just means more. We're going to prove it on the field. So that's what I would say. But when we come back, we're going to check out the non-conference games, which are so important because those are pendulum games. It swings the pendulum if the SEC beats another Power 4 conference. So when we come back, we're going to go over the entire non-conference schedule, Power 4 schedule, non-conference games with each SEC team. And right now, as I'm looking at this, we'll go over it again, but it's 15 Power 4 games the SEC has scheduled for the 2026 season. And some of those are natural rivalries, and some are new to the schedule. I believe some of these games, there's a couple maybe in there that I don't know if the teams have ever played against each other. So I love that when a team that's never played, a team from the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, and they're getting together for the very first time in college football. And it gives the SEC a chance for their fans to travel to another part of the country. It gives those fans another chance to travel to the SEC, and it's a showcase. It's a showcase for your program. It can be used as a recruiting tool as well, because we know that the NIL, they're drawing people from everywhere, and that name, image, and likeness, money, and that revenue that has drawn players from far distances outside the SEC to the league, and vice versa. Players from long distances have gone to conferences they never even considered. So we're going to be right back after these messages with another segment of AP as we see it.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it. We'd like to make mention of our sponsor, Greer's Markets, over 100 years in business, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, serving the Gulf Coast and beyond. Lucy's Famous Recipes in her book. You can purchase those at the store and online. Also, remember that family, friends, football, and basketball, and all the other sports, that's a winning tradition at Greer's. You can score big savings on the fresh meats, the produce, and more for your game day spreads. If you can't make it to one of the 29 locations, you can click on Groceries to Go and have it delivered to your home, your office, your venue of choice. They have the coloring contest for the children. Check the online weekly ads for all the special occasions, the birthdays, the anniversaries, the holidays, and Mardi Gras is happening right now. So check out Greer's for all those items that you need to have some fun with your family and friends. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And let's get back to we were speaking about the college football playoffs, and we want to make mention of the non-conference games and the upcoming this season. We also like to point out that our YouTube channel, AP As We See It, we were at the Super Bowl this past weekend. We saw the Seattle Seahawks defeat the New England Patriots. Super Bowl 60 was held in Santa Clara. We were in San Francisco for most of the week. That was the media center that would be bussed down to the Santa Clara, San Jose area an hour each day for 3 days. I went down there, and then we had to be bussed back. So it was an hour with each team, usually about an hour with each team. So it was a 4 or 5 hour day before we did anything. We were on Radio Row. We recorded our show there last week as well. So check out our AP As We See It YouTube channel. What we wanted to discuss now is the non-conference schedule 2026 for all the SEC teams. We're looking at just the Power Four games, and there's 15, as I said. There's going to be 8 against the ACC teams, 3 against the Big Ten, and 4 against the Big 12. So we'll do it in alphabetical order. That's usually the best, easiest. So we'll start with Alabama. They're playing Florida State on the 19th of September, Florida State from the ACC. We know that Florida State is trying to rebuild that program. They had difficulties last year, but they were able to beat Alabama. So Alabama, they'll have that marked on their schedule. I'm sure they won't forget those Seminoles this time. Arkansas is at Utah. That's an interesting game. I don't know if they've played. I really don't have any idea. That's on the 12th of September. Utah's a Big 12 team. So that's an interesting matchup. They have a new coach. Kyle Whittingham moved on to the University of Michigan. He didn't retire from the game. He just retired from the long time tenure that he had at Utah. Excellent program there. Good foundation for sure for the next coach. Auburn plays Baylor. That game's at a neutral site in Atlanta. Baylor's a Big 12 team, and that's a good ball game for Auburn. They played last year, and Auburn was the winner. So their return favor is in Atlanta. Florida, their annual rivalry would be at Florida State on the 27th of November. Florida State out of the ACC. So Florida State plays Florida and Alabama. That's a pretty tough non-conference schedule right there. Georgia played their rival, Georgia Tech, at home on the 28th. Georgia Tech, an ACC team. We know that Georgia Tech is a tough opponent for Georgia the last couple of years. Kentucky plays Louisville. Louisville with their new coach, Will Stein. That game is on the 28th. That's an ACC team, Louisville. We're looking at Clemson traveling to Baton Rouge, the two Tigers, the two Death Valleys. That's on early in the season. That's Labor Day weekend on the 5th of September. Clemson out of the ACC. We know Clemson's trying to regroup. Ended up with, I think, 6 losses last year. And we know that LSU with the new coach, Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss plays Louisville at Nashville on the 5th of September. Louisville an ACC team. So Louisville's got a couple SEC teams, Kentucky and Ole Miss. That'll be a good ball game for Ole Miss. Mississippi State travels to Minnesota. I'm not sure they played. I kind of doubt it, but we'll have to check the record as we get closer. But that's on the 12th of September. Minnesota out of the Big Ten. Missouri and Kansas get together. That's a heated rivalry. I was able to cover that game last year. They don't like each other. That's on the 12th of September. That's a Big 12 opponent, Kansas versus Missouri. Oklahoma returns the favor and travels to Michigan. I don't think they've ever played. I think that was only the second time because they played in the Orange Bowl in 1976 and then last year. So Oklahoma, the Sooners, travel to Michigan on the 12th of September. So that's a Big Ten opponent for Oklahoma. South Carolina, annual rivalry. Rabid fans of the state of South Carolina, I always say, I don't know if I've seen better fans in the state. They always show up for their teams, and they have not always had the best teams. So South Carolina at Clemson on the 28th of November. That's Clemson from the ACC. Tennessee, kind of renewing a game that was played through the years at Georgia Tech on the 12th of September. Tennessee probably has a big contingent of alumni in Atlanta. All the SEC schools, their alumni, there's always a big group in Atlanta. So Tennessee plays Georgia Tech on September 12th. That's an ACC opponent, of course. Texas hosting the Ohio State Buckeyes. I believe they played there once in their history. It was some years ago, but Texas had traveled to Columbus last year, lost a close, tight ball game. Two quarterbacks that making their starting for their teams, Julian Sain for Ohio State, the transfer from Alabama, the California native, and of course, Arch Manning of Texas. So that game is the 12th of September. That's early in the season. And of course, Ohio State's from the Big Ten. You have Texas A&M, Arizona State. That's on the 12th of September. Arizona State from the Big 12. Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham, good young coach. That'll be a nice test for Texas A&M. And you have Vanderbilt playing from the ACC, North Carolina State. That's on the 19th of September. So that's 15 games against Power Four teams. And like I say, those are what I call pendulum games because it's important. It's important for the Southeastern Conference to win against the other leagues. And I know that the SEC, they have a tendency to root against their rival. They want them to lose games, but it's not in their best interest. If your rival team is losing outside the conference, it reflects badly on you if you end up losing. Okay, so you want a team that's strong with a good record, and then it's going to improve your chances of being on TV for a better time slot. So this idea that I'm going to root against my rival team to lose, you're rooting against your own interests. I never could understand that. I tried to get that point across. I remember when Nick Saban first arrived at Alabama, he spoke to a group in Mobile, and he brought out the fact that if Alabama has a good record and Auburn has a good record, you're going to be the best game of the day. You're going to get the most eyes on your teams. It'll help you in recruiting, and it's just a total positive for your program. But people, they just can't let loose and root for their rival to have a good record. But if you don't have a good record, as Nick Saban explained, you're going to be in the early game and you're not going to be happy playing at 11 o'clock in the morning. So like I said, I know that I visited with people at Ohio State one time, and Michigan lost that game to Appalachian State, and there was a big cheer in the crowd. And I spoke to somebody who covered Ohio State, and they said, yeah, they were all happy that Michigan lost to Appalachian State to open the season. But down the road, it reflected badly on the Big Ten when you're trying to make yourself thought of highly in the polls and by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. So I just try to express that every year, and I'll just always mention it, that you should root for all the SEC teams if that's your conference, or if you're from the ACC or the Big 10 or the Big 12 or American Athletic Conference or these other conferences. Root for your conference to win the game, because it not only helps that team, but it helps your reputation as a conference when you're trying to earn berths and bids to the college football playoff, or you're trying to earn some votes in the Associated Press poll or the Football Writers Association of America poll, Super 16 poll, it's to your benefit to win ball games. So I know that's contrary and to most people's agenda, but that's the smart move. That's the smart philosophy for teams from the same conference. But anyhow, looking forward to the college football season. And I brought up all those games. You say, why are we discussing all these games in February? Why? Well, I like to have my audience be aware of the non-conference games so they can make the plans for the hotels, the travel. It helps them save money. And I know that most of them are, the majority probably, they know their schedule for their team, but some don't. And if you like to plan and save and get the best advantage of being at the hotels and the transportation and the travel and making plans and make sure you don't have events in the fall with your family and friends, now you're aware. You're aware of all these 15 Power 4 games that will be played by the Southeastern Conference teams. And like I said, there's 8 against the SEC, 3 against the Big Ten, and 4 against the Big 12. So anyway, that's our show for this week. We want to thank you. Please check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel, AP As We See It, and also my personal one at AP Stedham, our Facebook pages, personal and for the show, our X accounts, our Instagram accounts, and our Spotify. And you can leave some comments if you want. We welcome all the comments and any suggestions you may have as well. But anyway, that's another episode of AP As We See It, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.